Thank you, Demetria, and thank you so much to Trina and to all of the people who made this possible today. All the folks from Mending Hearts, can you all just clap for yourselves? Yeah. So we've heard some pretty amazing stories, and now I'm going to take us down for a minute. We're going to come back up, but I'm going to take us down because we're at the program, part of the program now, when I'm going to talk about what happens when substance abuse disorder doesn't come out of the shadows and doesn't come out of the light, into the light. I'm going to talk about what happens when this soul-sucking disease has serious consequences. And I wish I didn't have to, but I have to. So, can you please raise your hand if you know someone who is overdosed? Now keep your hand up if that person that you know who's overdosed died. I'm doing a pretty quick little mental count here, and I'm seeing about 40 or 50 people who died. Nationally, the stats in 2020 of the people who OD'd and died was 93,000 people. In Nashville-Davidson County, that number was 621. Our health department says that we are on track. Now, these are their words. We are on track to have 700 deaths this year. Those numbers are not going down, and they're not going in the right direction. I'm going to personalize the stats from 2017. Because in 2017, 73,000 people died. That means that 73,000 mothers, daughters, and wives, and girlfriends, and aunts, and sisters, and cousins lost someone to an overdose. And I know, because I was a mother, and I am one of those people left standing. Our son Max died of an overdose that year. And he didn't have to. He didn't have to die. The 73,000 people who died in 2017, the 67,000 who died in 2018, the 70,000 that died in 2019, and the 93,000 that just died in 2020 didn't have to die. So let me tell you the story of my child. Not because I want to make you sad, and not because I want to break your heart. Trust me, I am sad enough and broken enough for all of you. I want to tell you this story because I want to give you some hope. Because there is hope in this story. And it starts by taking a stand and saying that substance use disorder is a disease, and in order to do that, we have to peel away the shame and the guilt. Now, Max's journey towards substance use disorder, it started in college like a lot of people. He had a type A mom who was busting his chops all the time about his internships, graduation, and Max had anxiety. And he found a prescriber, somebody to give him Xanax. I don't know if that person was a medical professional. I have no idea. But I know for sure that he got addicted. And when we had Max on the phone, we knew our child was in trouble. We could hear it in his voice, and we got him on a plane, and we got him home, and we tried to figure out exactly what we were dealing with. I still remember taking him straight to the ER because I had no idea what to do. And this is where I got to see firsthand the shame and the guilt that comes with this disease. When we went into that emergency room, Max was taken immediately back, but because he was 21, he refused to sign any form that would allow me to come back in that room and to talk with him about what was going on. That was Max's shame and guilt. And that was the most dangerous part of this disease that night in that emergency room. I waited outside, and when the doctor finally came out, he told me to go home. He wouldn't tell me anything because Max didn't want me to know. My son was ashamed. I had to go home and figure out a plan because whatever we were dealing with was going to clear his system by 6 the next morning, and I'm going to have to come back and pick him up. And the doctor didn't tell me what to do. He didn't tell me how. He didn't tell me there were any instructions about how to deal with this disease. I just assumed that whatever was wrong with Max was drug related, and so I went home and got on the computer and I started searching. And I want to put this in perspective. At the time, I was the mayor of this great city. I certainly had resources at my disposal. Someone to call, somebody I could ask questions to find answers. And I didn't call anyone. I didn't call my mom. I didn't call my sisters. I didn't call a friend. I didn't call Max's doctor. Why? Because I was ashamed. I was ashamed that my son was a drug addict. Now, I want to play this whole scene out for you a little differently. Let's just say that when I had spoken to Max and noticed something that was wrong with him, and we thought there might be something medically wrong, we got him on a plane, we took him to the ER, and the doctor said, Max, you have a disease, and it's treatable, and we need to work out a treatment plan, and would you sign this form so I can go get your mom and bring her back in here, and so we can figure out what to do next? And my son would have said, please, get her back in here, and sign that form, and figure this out. And then my next outreach wouldn't have been to Google, it would have been to my mom, and my sisters, and my family, and my community. I would have been asking friends, hey, who do we know that successfully managed this? Where do we go? What are the places for the best treatment? Who are the best doctors? How are we going to help him manage this disease, this chronic illness, for the rest of his life? What if we treated it like a disease and not a moral failing? I believe my son would still be here today. Now, Max did go to a rehab, and then he went back and he finished his senior year in college, and in our minds, Max was cured. We didn't mention it to family, we didn't mention it to friends, we didn't want him to have a stigma associated with being a drug addict. We believed that we had checked the box, and guess what? Max believed it too. We didn't think we had to worry about it anymore. Max didn't think he had to either. But just to be sure, my husband did speak to him every day, just to make sure he could hear something in his voice. And we never heard anything. If only we had known. If only our shame had not prevented us from a deeper understanding of how this disease progresses. If only someone had told us how critical that first year anniversary is in fighting this disease. If only we had thought of it as a disease. But we didn't. We did not know how vulnerable Max was as he approached his first anniversary. See, we thought we'd checked the box, that we had beaten whatever it was, and we didn't have to worry about this anymore. Now, it's Saturday, July 29th, 2017, and it is close to the 1-year anniversary of Max completing rehab. And Max dies of an overdose in Colorado. And this is what I know about Max's evening. He's hanging out with friends on the deck of a suburban house where one of his friends is house sitting. His friends are hungry and they want something to eat, and Max tells them to go out without him. He's gonna hang out on the back deck. Can they just bring him back some food? When I think about this evening, I imagine him stretching out in his chair, tipping it back, taking a drag on a cigarette and looking up at that twilight sky. I imagine him thinking about his dog, Hank, and me, and his dad, and closing his eyes and being grateful for that moment. Perhaps the drugs are kicking in, that lethal combination of Xanax and methadone and hydromorphone and cocaine. Perhaps he knows something is wrong and he thinks of the one person who can help him, and he calls me. And my phone is on silent that night, and I miss his call. His friends are gone 40 minutes, and by the time they get back, Max is having a seizure. He is overdosing. But these are 20-something-year-old boys, and they don't know what to do, so they throw some water on him and hope it helps. Finally, one of them has the wherewithal to call 911. The paramedics are there by 9:58. They give him 2 doses of Narcan, but it doesn't help. He's dead by 10:30. At 9:55, I notice I have missed that call from Max, and I text him back and say, I saw I missed a call for you. Do I need to call you back? No response. He is dying as I am texting. I understand that there is a 911 tape of his last few minutes, Some of the local TV channels obtained a copy and played it after he died. Strangers across Nashville heard my son gasping for air, his friends screaming, but I could never listen. Max had a disease. He had substance use disorder, and he had that disease until the day he died. But now comes the hope part. I am talking about this. I am no longer ashamed. I am no longer afraid to step into the light and talk about this. We are standing on this bridge for the first annual National Women Touched by Addiction Day, which is going to grow across these United States with Trina leading the charge. We are going to peel away the shame and the guilt just by being here today. At Max's memorial service, my husband said, the counterweight to grief is community. The counterweight to recognizing and fighting this disease is community. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being the counterweight. I know that I am forever touched by this disease, and I am forever touched by Max. Thank you.